Good morning and welcome to the first tutorial from Suzanne Ford of Suzy Crafts. Today we'll be creating some mermaid cards using the Distress Oxides from Tim Holtz and the Glitter Bits Cosmic Shimmer Glitters. We have sea green, vintage violet and turquoise. I like to make my own colour blends. This is 2 scoops of vintage violet, 2 scoops of turquoise, and this is 2 scoops of turquoise and 2 scoops of sea green. The small pots are from Range. This is a PVA glue pen I like to use from Hobbycraft. It has a fine nozzle and doesn't clog. The dies I'm using today are from Hunky-dory Moonstone collection and are called Mesmerizing Mermaids. I've cut three different ones out of black cardstock from Anna Marie Designs. One tip I've picked up is to use coffee filter papers when you're using glitter or beads because they are grease proof, so the glitter doesn't stick to them. And I'm going to use my fine tip glue pen to apply some glue from the waist down the bottom half of the mermaid, and just a thin layer of glue spread all the way over the bottom half. Now I grab my blue and sea green glitter colour combination I mixed up earlier. Good sprinkling, generous sprinkling all over. Giving it a good shake and a flick to get off all the excess pieces of glitter. And I just run my finger along each side because some of the glitter is quite large. It tends to hang over the edge, so I just run my thumb and my finger over the edge and put those to dry. I've speeded up the next 2 for you so that you don't get bored watching me repeat myself. And as you can see, the filter papers work really well because the glitter doesn't stick. I really like using the Glitter Bits Cosmic Shimmer Glitter because it has different size particles on it, so it kind of all fits in, giving a really even coverage of glitter, and it really catches the light. I'm just going to leave those off to one side to dry thoroughly before we use them later on our card. I'm now going to grab my white and black card that I'm going to mount onto my 5x7 card. It's cut about 1/4 under 5 and 1/4 under 7, and matte and layer the black beneath the white. This is Anna Maria Designs cards, which is really thick, nice quality and takes the ink really well. Grabbing my Distressed Oxide inks, which is Cracked Pistachio, Salty Ocean and Broken China. And I really like using the Inkalicious ink duster brushes. I'm a bit particular, so I do kind of keep one for the blues, one for the greens, etc, and especially the white and black. It doesn't matter which order you apply the colours, as long as you get good coverage from mixing the colours over your white piece of card. And I'm using a Be Crafty blending mat, so I can work off the edge of the mat and then onto my card so I get smooth blending. With my first colour, I ink up different sections of the white card, taking my brush to the ink, taking off some of the oxide ink colour, and then really working it into the cardstock. I'm pressing quite hard, and then I'm just doing a clean sweep across the card, removing any bristles that have come off. I'm taking my second colour, and then working in a different area. Once again, I work right into the card. I'm pressing quite hard. I'm going to speed the next bit up for you because it's quite a long process, blending the three colours together, covering all the white areas on my piece of cardstock, brushing off any of those loose hairs from my brush, and blending in any stray flecks of pigment until I'm completely happy with the coverage. I then take my Inklicious water bottle and all I put in it is a small amount of cold tap water. I spray my brush a couple of times. I'm going to do this off screen just at the side of me so that I don't get any spillage of water across my piece of card. Then I take my damp brush straight across my piece of cardstock. I take it across a couple of times, give it a couple more sprays. You'll be able to see later on in the video where it zooms in and you can see the effect that it has on the cardstock. I will do this quite a few times, spraying my brush, turning my card round, taking my brush in one clean line across my piece of cardstock until I'm completely happy with the result. There we go, one finished piece of background cardstock with our water effect. I'm going to put this aside to dry. What I like about Anna Maria cardstock is it doesn't warp too much and you can bend it back on itself and it can dry flat. I'm going to do the whole process again on a completely separate piece of cardstock, which is just a scrap piece, and you'll see why later on. I'm going to take some seaweed dyes and some fish, and I'm going to use this piece of cardstock to cut those out of. I'm going to speed this next section up for you a little bit so you're not having to watch me go through the whole process over and over. But it's exactly the same as we did before, working the colours into the piece of card, getting a smooth, even coverage in our three colours. And then when I add the water spray, I've zoomed in for you so you can see that a lot better up closer. So actually what the brush effect creates across the scrap piece of card. So you can actually see the water on the brush pulling the colour across to make our water effect. These are the dies I've used. These are memory box. We have small ringlets, loopy rings, seaweed ribbons and seaweed stalks. And the last one is seaweed from Renke. And I've cut all those out of our scrap piece of card that we created earlier. Also some white ones. I like to randomly cut up a whole sheet of these, so I've got some spare in a box. I've got loads of die cuts all waiting to go. So I like to sit and create my backgrounds in all sorts of different colours and then have a massive cutting session, getting all my dies out and cutting them out of my scrap cardstock. It's really useful when you're bulk making cards as well, or preparing for a class. I'm now going to take our piece of card that we prepared earlier, and I'm using my Tim Holtz stamping platform that I really started to use more and more lately. If you're stamping up and you miss part of the stamp, or you want to go over it, make it darker, it's a really good way to do this that you can't achieve with an acrylic block, but you can with the stamping platforms. It doesn't have to be the Tim Holtz one, but it's my preferred one. And this stamp set was actually on the front of a magazine that I'm going to use. Everybody keeps asking me where I got it from. Unfortunately, it was on the front of a magazine. It does look a lot to me like a Kaisercraft one. They do a lot of really grungy, nice background stamps. And I really like the effect that this is given on the bottom of our card. So I'm positioning it over our cardstock that we coloured up earlier, placing it down and then flipping over the top of my stamping platform so that it sticks to it. And I'm using archival black ink to stamp it up. Now I like the black archival ink when I'm doing a black image because it gives a true deep black, which I don't find I always get with other dye inks. And it also dries really quickly, almost instantly. So I'm placing it down firmly, a couple of presses across, lifting my platform top up, and I have my stamped image. To clean my stamps when I'm using a black dye-based ink, I'm using just any ordinary baby wipes. I do like the pure Huggy ones, but they're the brand that I've always used since my children have been born. I do sometimes use the stamp scrubber pads as well, but mainly for lighter inks and pigment pads. Your stamps will always stain, and there's not much you can do about that, but they will be clean if you use a stamp scrubber or baby wipes. So I'm going to fix my white piece of stamped up cardstock onto my black using the Collal glue. I really like this glue because it has a little bit of slip time, so that when I place it on my black piece of card, I've got a little bit of time to move it around and get it right into position. I use the glue using small L shapes on each corner. Position it over the top of my black cardstock. I do like really thin borders of cardstock around my cards, and this will be ready to place on my 5x7 white cardstock. I just turn it over, smooth it down, and that'll dry completely flat without any buckling. Now we can start finishing off and assembling our card. This is the Pinflair glue gel. These are cuticle sticks that I buy in a packet from Superdrug. I think they're 99p. They've got a thin end and a wider spreading end. They're great for adding any glue and silicone gel to all your projects. So I squeeze a bit out onto my cuticle stick. It's kind of a half of a pea amount, and I'm placing it carefully on the back of my seaweed die cuts. Just making sure that it doesn't go over the edges of the die cut so it can't be seen. If it does go over the edge or a bit squishes out onto your card, you can easily remove this with one of these clean cuticle sticks. So I'm starting to assemble my pieces of seaweed down the one side of the card. Being careful not to press down because I want the silicone to give it the 3D effect. of the seaweed coming out of the water. I'm just adding a few of those, and I'm going to speed it up slightly for you in a minute so that you don't have to sit through everything. Adding all my bits and pieces to my card. It's entirely up to you how much you add at this stage, and just continue until you're happy. So I'm grabbing my mermaids that we made at the first part of the tutorial. They're nice and dry now. Just showing you how to squeeze a bit of that silicone to the top of the tube before you tighten the lid on. If you have a little bit of the silicone popping out, it doesn't clog up. It all comes with a metal bar as well, which you slip onto the end of your silicone tube and wind up until you've got that little piece popping out the top of your silicone gel before you screw the lid on. I'm going to place some silicone behind the back of her head, on her body and on her tail, and this gives us a nice 3D effect of our card. You can use sticky fixers or foam tape if you want to, but then you haven't got any room for manoeuvre. You can't move them around very slightly if you've got them crooked or in the wrong position. When you're placing them on, make sure that you don't press them down. They don't want to be flat, they want to be nice and sat on top of that water. Match them up, see which one you feel fits best. I have a little collection of things like this, so I can pick them out and use them whenever I want to. So bending the hair back, bending the tail back so it sits nicely on my card, just shaping them very gently. This glitter doesn't shed, it doesn't come off, so it's really good for that. Once again, putting some silicone behind the head, the body and the tail, and then popping that onto my card to finish. My final touch to the card is some Nouveau clear glitter drops. These dry like flat back pearls. You can actually squeeze them out and dry them on baking parchment, so you can actually use them as flat back pearls. But you can put them direct to the card, just make sure that you don't touch it. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes to dry, and it just adds some little tiny bubbles in the background. I really hope you've enjoyed my first tutorial today and you'll be back for more. There will be lots more coming your way. If you'd like to give us a thumbs up at the end of this video, we would love that. Please share our channel and share our tutorial with all your friends and family. And share all your lovely cards. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves and happy crafting. Thanks for watching.